Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast, episode 25. Today we are talking about the Pheonix. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee, and my co-hosts today are...
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Chandler.
And as we have mentioned numerous times before, House Steiner was the second state to develop battlemech technology, but this distinction would be short-lived as both the Draconis Combine and the Federated Suns secured the technology in 2461 by very different means. The Archon, Alistar Steiner, realized it was only a matter of time before the battlemech was ubiquitous on the battlefield. As such, the Archon took a shocking step by exporting the battlemechs to the Rimworld Republic, the neighboring periphery state. This action was taken due to the realization that eventually battlemechs would show up on their coreward border, as the ruling family of the Rimworld Republic was the Amerises and had ties to the Terran hegemony. In a brilliant political move, the Archon chose to supply the Rimworld Republic with battlemech technology to make the troops on the border allies instead of enemies, cementing an economic deal into a military alliance and non-aggression pact. With the Rimworld Republic able to get their Mackie line operational in 2465, as with all other nations, the Rimworld Republic knew that it would need to build its own unique designs in order to maintain a military edge. Many concepts were attempted, but the first to see any real traction was the Pheonix by Kruss Heavy Designs on Wanton. The Pheonix was narrowing down its design when ASRock, the Rimworld Republic intelligence agency, secured the jump jet technology used in the Wasp. Eager to integrate the new technology, the team scrambled to integrate it at the order of the government, basically upending the design that was already ready for final approval.
That's never a good idea.
No, don't ever do that, please. If you have control over a project and someone says, we should do this at the last minute, tell them no.
Tell them to start a new project.
Tell them politely but firmly to leave.
Yes, it's called a second model, an upgrade, or a different version. The Rimworld Republic was the only government to produce the Pheonix, and none are known to have been used or salvaged by any other military. Comstor records indicate that the Hessianic League has several units in its military, but their origin and how they procured them is unknown. The Pheonix has the design quirks of a direct torso mount SRM, and it has EM interference.
And for those listeners who are slightly confused right now, like I was right before we started this is a completely different mech than the Pheonix Hawk. This is the Pheonix. I just want to make that clear. We are not talking about the Pheonix Hawk here.
Yeah, different mech, different episode.
Mm-hmm.
Much longer episode. And a lot more variants.
Probably a two-parter. Yeah, but this one does jump, and it is in the approximate weight class. It weighs in at 50 tons. And the first one we're going to talk about is the PX-1R, and it's got two SRM-2s in the left torso, a PPC in the right arm, and it's got a movement profile of 463. It is 50 tons, and it has 12 heat sinks. And this thing it's a good prototype. It's not bad.
The PPC is giving them a bunch of issue with that EM interference.
It's true.
There's probably some bad shielding on that bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
But, for a prototype, not bad. It's their first go at their own mech.
And a PPC is not a bad primary weapon, even if it has a little bit of interference. And I say little as a very quantified term.
Yeah, and I mean, it's 50 tons, it's 463. That's not good movement profile for what it's carrying in a standard mech, but in a primitive.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
That's solid.
Yeah, for primitives, that is contemporary, if not a little better.
And well balanced.
Yeah, because if something closes into the PPC minimum range, you got those two SRM2s to tell them to go away or die. Their choice.
And that big left mid, although I don't know if I would want to punch anyone with it, because it looks like it has a lot of exposed actuators.
Mech throat jab.
So the PRX-1R, with the jump jets finally integrated in 2474, the Pheonix was first seen. In the scramble to add the jump jets, the SRM package was downgraded from a pair of SRM-4s to a pair of SRM-2s. I definitely would have liked the SRM-4s personally, but also received an armor bump. I'm not gonna say no to more armor. But as with the Wasp, the Pheonix had a major issue with its jump jet systems. Despite the government's assurances it was battlefield ready, the list of issues included, but were not limited to, the PPC issue when firing causing EM interference. This issue was nicknamed the Sparky Bird issue. Insufficient leg reinforcements, and issues with the jump jets that could result anywhere from leg damage to shattering of the legs and or torso damage. The first Council Ameris espoused a quality over quantity doctrine, and so threw good money after bad to iron out all of the kinks in the Pheonix, much to the detriment of other military programs. To refit and resolve the issues, this took over half a dozen upgrade kits and refit systems, and once the final one was successful, the R1 would only see 13 years before being upgraded to standard tech. It has a battle value of 917 and a point value of 21, and the 1R has the design quirks of EM interference, obsolete in 2525, poor workmanship, and weak legs.
That is known as the sunk cost fallacy. To throw good money after bad.
Yeah.
And there's also some discrepancies on the dates here between master unit list and what we see in the technical readout. And even what the technical readout says inside its own entry. Because obsolete in 2525, but it says it was all the design flaws were fixed by the final decade of the 25th century, which would be the 2490s. And then only 13 years afterwards would be, at the absolute latest would be 2512.
I mean, there's some wiggle room for distribution because you're going to have to ship all of those kits to all over the RimWorld Republic, which is not as massive as the successor states, but it's still not small.
Yeah, but then the master unit list says the Pheonix 3R is introduced in 2520. Which, again, if that's the modernized version, that's still more than 13 years after the final decade of the 25th century.
Yeah, there's a little discrepancy. I'm not disputing that.
I think I want to blame the SLDF and Kerensky's forces when they destroyed the RimWorld Republic in their revenge campaign. Probably screwed up a lot of the records here. And that's why we're seeing so many oddities in this entry. That's my guess.
See, normally you blame Comstar, but that works too.
Comstar, SLDF, they're all big government from the core.
That, and then with the secession wars and the Pheonix being, gone after the Civil War, like, who would care about keeping these records?
And the RWR being gone.
So next we come to the 3R, debuting in 2520, and it, according to the TRO, resolves all of the issues that the R1 had and upgrades to standard tech. It is a capable mech that can easily handle lighter mechs. This model was used to test mechs dropping from dropships into urban combat with disastrous results. During a training exercise, a Pheonix's jump jets malfunctioned and the unit crash landed into a hospital. The RimWorld Republic issued a ordinance that banned jump-capable mechs from coming closer than 12 kilometers to any urban center with a population over 1,000 or more.
I mean, at least the pilot wound up where they needed to go.
Yeah, after that crash, you are going to need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Once your commander's done with you, you're going to need to go to the hospital.
An ass transplant.
Yeah.
So this has got a movement profile of 585. It's still got the 2 SRM-2s in the left torso and the PPC in the right arm. It's got 14 heat sinks, and it just really firms up the design and establishes what it can do with standard tech.
Yeah, this is the Pheonix 1R literally brought to medium standards. The movement profile is essentially optimal for a 50-tonner, 585. Little lightly armed still, 1 PPC, 2 SRM-2s, but you're not too far off from, say, a default Griffin.
Yeah, and your heat curve isn't too bad. I mean, you can't fire everything and move without generating some heat, but...
Well, fire and jump.
You shouldn't be alpha striking, yeah.
Yeah. That being said, this is a mech from a periphery state. It's the first periphery state we've seen to have a mech. They have significantly less infrastructure than any of the successor states.
Yeah, and it still has ended up better than some of the other first mechs.
Yep. I would say this is a superior first design to the Battle Axe.
Yeah, but also I think it's not accurate to downplay the technical capabilities of the periphery.
Oh, absolutely.
they're not as big as the inner sphere, but they still are multiple planets. They still have basically the full breadth of knowledge that humanity brought with it from Terra. They're just developing a whole new manufacturing capability, just like all of the great houses are. But once you get to that scale, doing something as simple, quote unquote simple, as building a new factory and the factories to feed into it.
It's just a resource problem, I'm saying.
Yeah.
The fact that they have X many less planets that they can draw resources from, like hard material resources from. The human factor only comes into it when you need to pilot all of those machines. You're always going to be able to find dedicated, brilliant people to work on your project. The trick is just to find them and to motivate them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we shouldn't be assuming the periphery has less technical capability and knowledge because of the periphery. They don't have the capacity to put multiple factories on all these different worlds and feed massive amounts of resources on the same scale as the inner sphere great houses. Like you pointed out, they just don't have the sheer number of worlds and manpower to do it on that kind of scale. But the technical aspects, I mean, the Taurian Concordat was building warships in at least 2, I think 3 different designs before the Age of War was over. So the periphery is a very technologically capable and advanced society.
Yeah, and especially before the Secession Wars and the Amara Civil War and all that just kind of tear everything down.
Well, generally also, the further you get from established urban centers, speaking in generalities here, the more you appreciate and take care of your technology because you realize how scarce it can become.
And the more people are technically savvy, because if you're out on a farm in a rural area, you have to be able to maintain and fix your own equipment. You just can't take it into a shop like a city dweller.
So it's got a battle value of 1106 and a point value of 29.
And that's followed up by a variant that Chandler probably likes, but half as much as he would like if it had an AC 20.
Yes, so the next one is the 4R, which is almost identical to the 3R. However, it shaves off 4 heat sinks, so bringing it down to its total to 10. Gets rid of one of the SRM2s and the PPC and slaps an AC-10 in the Ray arm to replace that PPC as the main weapon of the mech. And it carries 1 ton of AC-10 ammo and 1 ton of SRM2 ammo. I'd say it's a solid, like, I'm going to just pump these babies out and not have to care about training these people. But I wouldn't say it's I'm going to give this to my commandos and go have them do their thing.
It's funny you should say that because this model came out in 2581 and we saw much anticipation and disappointment for it. This unit was one of the first RimWorld Republic units to be equipped with an AC-10, and this change ended up being a mistake as it was hard to rearm in the field and was simply lackluster, especially since the SLDF proved that the mobile resupply model was ineffective and susceptible to attacks in previous campaigns against other states. The hope for the model led to the RimWorld Republic ordering a large production run and then abandoning the mech altogether.
This one is crippled more by logistics than anything else. Because in a realistic, again, I'm going to use that term, realistic setting, this is a better Pheonix, because that AC-10 is going to be much more effective at destroying hard points and dealing with infantry in the open than the PPC.
It's also probably a little more reliable long-term than a PPC, and it would get rid of the electromagnetic interference.
Well, the electromagnetic interference is dropped with the 3R. They fixed that problem in there.
Just in general, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even something you have to worry about. But it runs into the problem of Nazi Germany in the latter half of World War II, where if your supply lines are completely disrupted by enemy action, you can't keep your frontline units supplied in a combat capable standing.
They cease to be combat effective.
Yeah. Maybe you can only get enough ammo for half your Phoenixes in a platoon or a company to be armed and ready for action, then that unit is basically combat ineffective. It's out of action.
Yeah. And then as a general all-rounder on the tabletop, it's not bad because you're trading a little bit of range from the PPC to that AC-10 for no minimum range. So you're able to get right in there and fight, but then you still also have some reach with the AC-10's range band.
Yeah, and if you're, say, the Hanseatic League, and you've salvaged a bunch of old Phoenixes from the former RimWorld Republic, you now have access to precision ammunition, which the AC-10 version of this Pheonix can take advantage of.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of potential in this. I mean, we haven't talked about the design in general. So the 4R has a battle value of 9.96 and a point value of 28. And this guy looks interesting. It definitely has a distinctive look. I've mentioned the almost exposed actuators in the left hand, which has a diamond shape and doesn't actually look that effective at holding anything.
Yeah, none of those fingers are opposable.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like a weapons platform to impress as opposed to be practical. And the cockpit also looks like it's a proto-Atlas head.
Yeah.
Like, it's really trying to go for that skull motif. And it's one of those mechs where I don't hate it. I just, like, there's these little things I like, but overall, no.
Yeah, that left arm's definitely there just to help keep the mech balanced with the gun on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he skipped leg day.
He definitely skipped leg day.
Well, he skipped leg day, but he did go to fly day.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I only have one notable mech warrior for this.
Yeah, so for our pilot profiles, we were only able to dig up one, and that would be
Captain James Hoffman. During the Age of War, Captain Hoffman, a man who really hated the Lyran Commonwealth after one of their raids on the planet Persistence killed his wife, went on a rampage.
a solid motivator, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he apparently went to horrible extremes, probably committed more than a few war crimes to extract his revenge against the Lyran Commonwealth. He was reported dead after a raid in force he was a part of went bad, and he sacrificed himself to defeat a military target thought to be impregnable to conventional assault. He basically turned himself into a giant bomb. It was a combat drop. He steered his mech straight into the militia's command center. Sounds like he just kind of jump jetted over, turned him off, and just went headfirst into the ground.
Probably also turned off his engine safeties and just went Nova.
He didn't jump over into it. While they were doing their combat drop, he maneuvered himself as a missile, basically.
Yeah, that's what I meant by jump. He's using his jump jets to maneuver himself over the command center.
Because of that, the operation that was expected to be a bitter grind turned into a resounding success. But the Rimworld Republic would label the actions as a misuse of valuable military assets and ban any such action. Until the Ameris coup, where they were used en masse again.
Yeah, and lots of pilots took on kamikaze attacks against the SLDF.
So, for today's data dive, we're going to talk about the inner sphere and space in the not crunchy looking at borders shifting or anything like that, but as we've mentioned actually twice in this episode, we've mentioned core word, and Josh mentioned it in reference to the core of human civilization, and I mentioned it in reference to interstellar location. So we figured this would be a good chance to talk about that.
Yes, I said core word in the Harry Seldon sense.
Good reference. So we're talking about the inner sphere. And when we talk about that, we're talking about established human colonized space. And it's a pretty large area. It takes a long time to travel from one side of it to the other. Because of the way the jump technology works, it takes the recharge time, and that slows down trips. But when you're looking at a map of the galaxy, specifically the Milky Way galaxy, we are but a tiny speck on the spur of Orion. And as such, we needed some coordinate systems because with Earth being the cradle of humanity and us spreading to the stars, we needed new reference points. So the reference points we chose were Terra or more specifically Sol, the sun of Terra, and we decided that north would be coreward. So coreward is north, or the direction up on the map when you are looking at it, and it is pointing towards the center of the Milky Way. What would be east is spinward, then west is anti-spinward, and then of course course, south would be rimward, which points away from the core of the Milky Way. Any questions?
Spinward versus anti-spinward. That one always needs a little bit of explanation.
Yeah, so that is just the direction on which the arms are rotating around the center of the Milky Way, I think is the most apt way to describe it. So as we all travel in our interstellar journey, cue Monty Python song, the Earth is rotating around the sun, which is part of the Orion Spur, which is part of one of the arms of the Milky Way, and that is also traveling at a rate orbiting the many black holes, or one giant black hole, in the center of the Milky Way. And so that rotation is what we quantify as the direction for spinward and anti-spinward, and coreward is always pointing towards the center. So rimward, if you look at a clock, rimward is the point of the hand and it's always moving around.
Feel real small now, don't you?
Yeah, but of course human lifespans are so short that the actual distance traveled is inconsequential. Like, the only time you're going to have to map this is when you're looking at ancient maps from several hundred years ago. The Explorer Corp has dusted off and is trying to remap, lost colonies that are several hundred light years and therefore many, many jumps away from any of the established borders.
So to make spinward and anti-spinward a little bit easier, at least for me, I think of looking at the Milky Way as if it's a clock face.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start at the bottom, if we orient Sol, Earth's star, at the bottom of our view, moving coreward is obviously moving in towards the center. Moving rimward is obviously moving out towards the edge.
Yes.
Moving spinward, you're moving clockwise around the clock face. Going anti-spinward, you're moving counterclockwise.
No, anti-spinward would be clockwise.
No, because you're moving with the spin.
The spin stops here.
Yeah, it's hard to explain without a visual cue for this.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map of the Milky Way right now.
Yes.
And if you orient the map of the inner sphere towards the core,
okay, yes.
To go spinward, you have to move clockwise around the galaxy. You're moving.
Yes, I had a different orientation.
And it's also, you think about it like a whirlpool, because that's kind of what the galaxy looks like. If you're moving spinward, you're moving with the whirlpool and you're circling down towards the core. If you're moving anti-spinward, you're working your way up the whirlpool and out towards the top, the trailing arms.
Yes, exactly.
I understand what you're saying, and I conceptually get it, but my God, are everyone going to be confused?
Yes. I think that's why the Battletech map doesn't superimpose itself over the Milky Way at all, and most people just refer to it as north, south, east, and west.
Yeah.
Yes, which is a fair shorthand to use because, as we have already mentioned, consequentially, it doesn't really matter because this is the sandbox that we're playing in, the inner sphere.
And flat maps don't mean anything anyway in space.
Oh, yeah, like there is clearly a third coordinate that is missing, and obviously we have the coordinate systems which use Terra as the 0 point. Coreward north is the positive axis for one of the coordinates, which would be the y, and then spinward is the positive for the x, just like a xy grid when you're mapping things out, and then it goes from there. But of course we need...
Isn't anti-spinward the x?
Did I mix that up?
Yes, I think you did.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Inner Sphere Atlas.
In space, no one can hear cartographers scream.
Yeah.
Man, now I have to get out my...
No, I got it. Hold on.
Get out your handy dandy notebooks, folks. We're going on an adventure.
Yeah, so anti-spinward is the positive. So coreward is positive y, and
anti-spinward is positive x.
Yes.
Rimward is negative y, and spinward is negative x.
No, hold on. Sorry, New Avalon is 266 and negative 110, so that would mean that... What's Luthien?
Positive.
Yeah, it's...
If Terra is your center.
Yes. So, coreward is the positive y, and spinward is the positive x. Got it.
Oh, damn it.
What?
I'm looking at Interstellar Expeditions, and they reverse spinward and anti-spinward from what we were saying. Spinward is the east side of the map. Anti-spinward is the west side of the map.
Okay, well, I think what ultimately this discussion has proven that this coordinate system is arbitrary, and most of us can just use north, east, south, and west.
At least we got rimward and coreward right.
Exactly. Those ones are a little hard to screw up.
I would have been worried, guys.
So obviously the coordinate systems are based off of light years, and so you have to map the distance using Pythagoras, of course with the missing Z or Z coordinate that is not listed but would have to exist because the Milky Way doesn't exist on a 2D plane.
I didn't realize I was going to geometry class today.
All right, now class, take out your graphing calculators.
No.
Better have holographic ones because we're graphing all 3 axes right now.
Any questions you guys got, or?
So many questions. Like, why is spinward and anti-spinward the way they are? But that's not for this podcast.
Yes, that's for the arbitrary decision making of Catalyst now.
Blame Comstar. Just blame Comstar.
When in doubt. Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, TRO Primitives Volume 5, and TRO and Record Sheet Succession Wars.
I used TRO 3075.
We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, Mech Warriors.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?